Redmond.
Here.
Mr. Francie.
Yeah.
Ms. Kane. Here.
Here.
On to discussion setting of a public hearing date for April 16th. Is ordinance 014-9. Calendar year 2014 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits to establish a cash bank.
Okay. Anybody want to offer the public hearing for April 16th? I'll offer it. I'll second it.
Offered by Mr. Redmond, second by Mayor Nolan.
Roll call.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yep.
Ms. Kane.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
On for, I think Bruce.
I'll read this if you like.
Yeah, please, Mr. Pfeffer will speak to this. This is a introduction and set public hearing
What
for.
it is, and then I'll read the actual resolution.
Okay.
Just read the title.
I don't have the title, Mr.
I do. It's R14-90, budget introduction and set public hearing date for April 16th for the introduction of the 2014 municipal budget.
Okay, so this is,
Hold on, we're gonna do this one first.
Yeah. Sorry.
Just gets me finished up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
okay, that's okay. This is resolution 1490, municipal budget notice. Municipal budget of the Borough of Highlands, County of Monmouth for fiscal year 2014. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenue and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2014. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the Two River Times in the issue of March 28, 2014. The governing body of the Borough of Highlands does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2014. Explanatory statement, summary of current fund section of approved budget for the year 2014. General appropriations, appropriations within cap, A, municipal purposes, H1 sheet 19, NJSA 48,455.2, $6,936,891. Appropriations excluded from caps, A, municipal purposes, item H2 sheet 28, NJSA 48,445.3 as amended, $2,445,124.45. Total general appropriations excluded from caps, item O sheet 29, $2,445,124.45. Reserve for uncollected taxes, item M sheet 29, based on estimated 93% of tax collections, $1,100,505.19. Total general appropriations, item 9, sheet 29, building aid allowance none, for school state aid none, 2013-2012, $10,482,520.64. Less anticipated revenue other than current property tax, item 5, sheet 11, i.e. surplus, miscellaneous revenue, and receipts from delinquent taxes, $3,891,161.01. And difference amount to be raised by taxes for support of municipal budget as follows. A, local additions for municipal purposes including reserve for uncollected taxes, item 6A, sheet 11, $6,591,359.63. And now you can move to introduce the budget.
And set the public hearing. Bruce,
Oh,
did you
yeah,
want
let
to
me read that. You know
No.
what? Let me read that. Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the governing body, Borough of Highlands, County of Monmouth, on March 19, 2014. A hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held at the Highlands Elementary School on April 16, 2014, at 8:00 p.m., at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2014 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
Okay. Bruce, do you have anything to add? Or is
Not
this-
on that.
Okay. Any discussion at the table? If not, I'll take a motion for the setting of the public hearing April 16th in this building at 8:00. So move. I'll second it.
Mayor Nolan, seconded.
I'll second it. Mr. Francis over that, I second it.
Sorry. Offered by Mr. Francis, second by Mayor Nolan.
Yep, roll call.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yep.
Ms. Kane.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, just to step back a minute to ordinance introduction and set a public hearing date for April 16th. This is not on the written agenda because Ms. Cummins was out today, but Councilman Francie asked for preparation of an ordinance, which I believe he plans to move. It would be ordinance 14-10 and ordinance amending section 9-8.1 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Highlands to reduce the quarterly sewer rate for residential by $20 per quarter and the minimum quarterly rate for non-residential by $20. It's currently $140. That would be reduced to $120 for both residential and non-residential.
And what is the extent of the proposal?
For 2 years.
2 years,
For 2 years
okay.
only.
Mr. Francie, you want to speak to this? Start the conversation?
Yes, at this point, we will have completed the dissolution of the sewer authority as of April 1st. The expenses are expected to go down some $120,000 a year. We have a surplus in the sewer account now that's on the order of between 400 and 450,000, but that 300 is...
I understand, but it's 7:30 right now.
It's 730,000, but we believe 300 is potentially committed to pay back a loan. So at this point, even with a budget surplus of 430,000, this reduction in income is around $80,000 a year. So at this point, it's less than the reduction is less than the reduction in expenses, so that we should still see our surplus continue to grow, but slower. And at this point, I believe we owe it to the residents to move on this.
What is our yearly, I know you sit on a sewer authority, Mr. Francie, what is our yearly budget? It passed, obviously. It's gonna change.
1.2 million.
Okay, so
So at this point,
it's a double-digit surplus, this is fair to say, even with the 300,000?
correct.
Okay. And we started this conversation, I guess, about a year and a half ago with a lot of Friday meetings. A lot of people at this table and a lot of people at the Atlantic Highlands Council table. And at one point, we were meeting every Friday for probably 3 months to get this done. We're at the end of the line, thankfully. It seems like everything's going to go through. And I know that the goal, stated or not, was not to maintain the fees we charge the residents, but was to lower it, or else there'd be no reason to do it anyway. I think that it's safe to have a $430,000 surplus after you take the $300,000 out. Give back 80, you put you down at about 350, and you're still going to bring more money in than you're spending. We've been cautioned against this by our CFO because of potential other impacts of finances. But if you want to offer it, I will second it, and then everybody else can weigh in.
I do intend to offer it.
Okay, I'll second it.
Offered by Mr. Francie, second by Mayor Nolan. Ms. Ryan?
I'd like to speak about this. I just think that it's too soon. I'm not going to vote for this tonight. If we have 3 months to see what's happening with the budget and to see how much money we are indeed saving, I will vote for it later this year, but I'm not going to vote for this tonight.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Ms. Ryan? No. Mr. Redmond?
No.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. Kane?
I'm also voting no at this time. I think we have nothing to benchmark it to. We don't know what lies ahead of us. If we had the crystal ball, it'd be perfect, but I don't want to come up and have some huge calamity, and then that $20 that everybody got back, now you're being charged $50 next year. And then you're saying to me, well, what the hell happened? How did, we were supposed to get big discounts. We had nothing to fix problems that may arise. So I think until we know and feel out our way and do it on our own, by all means, things go smoothly, things work great. I have no problem with it. I just don't have it before we even start the process yet. So I vote no.
Okay, Mayor Nolan?
I'm going to vote yes. I respect everybody's opinion up here, but I think that the realization of the hardship that everybody's going through right now, uptown, downtown, financially, period. It may not seem like anything, but it's a step in the right direction. If we continue to do a good job with spending, and we can do that with our overall budget of the town, as we get new revenues in, we can, God forbid, stabilize or lower the tax rate also, but I'm going to vote yes.
Motion fails.
Motion is defeated, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Consent agenda. Anybody have anything on here that they would like to take off and talk about separately? At the table? No? Okay, I'll offer the consent agenda.
Offered by Mayor Nolan?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Ryan? Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. Next up is a resolution for appointing a purchasing agent. I'm gonna ask that we table this because we didn't advertise the job and advertise it. I don't think we should start pointing things or giving out jobs that we haven't advertised. The person who's doing it now is, I believe, doing it for free. I think that they are, from what I've heard, one of the best people at the job. I have no doubt if we advertise it, they might be the one that's picked anyway, but we didn't advertise it. So I'll offer to remove this and advertise the job and maybe put it on again. Will we have enough time for April 16th, Mr. Hurst? Okay. I'll move that we advertise it and set a next resolution for April 16th.
I'll second.
Offered by Mayor Nolan, second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes.
And actually, I'd just like to say, in addition to that, April 16th, if we can also do the resolution, when we bring the person on board, whoever it may be, if we can add the thresholds, the different thresholds of purchasing, we'd have to do a resolution, because with the QPA comes different thresholds that we can buy at. So I'd like to do those in concert,
Sounds good. Sounds
so
reasonable.
that way, at least that way, whoever it is ready to go.
Great. Okay, sounds reasonable. I'll add that. Ms. Kane's suggestion to that. We have to amend it. I'll offer that.
The amendment offered by Mayor Nolan,
Second? Anybody?
Second.
second by Mr. Francie.
Roll call?
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yeah.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. 1491, Deb, is resolution awarding contract to purchase ambulances. We've been talking about this for a while. We went through the process. Steve, what is the number? In front of you, do you have?
Yeah, the number for this is $239,837.
And for that, we're getting two, correct?
Yes.
And one is brand new, or both are brand new?
No,
One is-
he told me, and it's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to speak briefly?
One new and one completely rebuilt.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. Ed, thank you for all your work on that. We appreciate it. Ordinance 14-3, zoning ordinance amendment for non-conforming lots.
For second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-14-3.
Dale, you want to speak to this briefly?
Sure, let me
this is
just
the one-
comment, Dale, let me just jump in and comment that the planning board reviewed this and found that it was consistent and recommended adoption as is.
Okay.
Very good.
Want to briefly just let the audience know?
Yeah, this is the, part of the ordinance 2198 allows for, relief in the overall setbacks for structures on various lots. And you have to go through various parameters. One of the parameters was that the non-conforming lot, which is a smaller lot, had to be 70% of the required lot size for that zone, which a lot of our lots stay in town don't even come close to. So it's unfair to have that in there when nobody can meet it, because if you miss one criteria, you don't get it all. So I came to council, I offered to take this out. Council agreed, and went to planning board agreed. So that's what the vote is tonight, to remove the 70% rule, to try to make things a little easier for houses to be built there.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone have any questions on 14-3? Seeing none, we'll close it. Go ahead, Deb.
For third and final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-14-3. Ordinance amending 21-98 of the Borough Code repealing 21-98 F1D to eliminate requirements for non-conforming lots that the lot area is not less than 70% of the required lot size and relettering that subsection as appropriate.
Okay, I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
Second.
second by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-14-4, review of planning board comments.
Dale, you want to briefly talk about that one too?
This is basically
This is what you came to us about.
Yeah, our ordinance had a requirement for enclosure openings, where we needed one within 3 feet of any building corner. That's an old outdated requirement from the building code. And it was creating hardship for people because they had to get their plans redone. You know, there was revisions back and forth. Contractors had to redo some things. So because it's not in the building code anymore, and there's no harm or foul to take it out. I offered to remove this from the ordinance. Again, council agreed, planning board agreed. So the number of enclosures still remains intact, but we're not designating where to put them anymore, which is consistent with the building code.
Exactly, to be more up in
Yep,
counter
more efficient.
code. Okay,
The planning board also has reviewed this one and recommends adoption as is.
okay. Anyone have any comments on 14-4? We'll open the public hearing. Seeing none, we'll close it. You want to go ahead, one last?
Third and final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-14-4, ordinance amending 21-124.5, enclosure openings of the borough code to remove the requirement that there must be one opening within 3 feet of any building corner.
I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Ryan. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yeah.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-14-6, an ordinance amending chapter 10 buildings and housing to conform to the requirements of NJSA 4048-1 and to allow the borough to determine and abate certain nuisance.
Okay. I'll offer that.
Offered
I'll
by Mayor
second it.
Nolan,
Seconded by Mr. Redmond.
second by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mr.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. Sorry, what's in the name? Yeah, I got it. Here, it's open space. Okay, next is 14-6. Dale, is that you also? Building nuisances?
No.
Okay, building housing nuisances. Bruce, you ready to speak to that? Give us a brief synopsis of what that is? So the folks in the audience know I have it in front of me.
Third and
Sure.
final reading.
Mr. Glass drafted that. So we can-
Oh, okay, please, sir.
This really, sorry. This makes it a little bit easier for the borough to deal with buildings that are dangerous to the public welfare. Previously, it was a little more cumbersome to really make the emergency repairs and other repairs that would be necessary to basically prevent the public from possibly being injured by the collapse of a home or of a nuisance. Really what this is that this will give the governing body the power by way of resolution to abate a nuisance or to correct property so that it's in the proper condition to comply with borough ordinances, statutes, and regulations.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing then to 14-6. Anybody have any questions on that? Mr. Mullin?
Was there something in our ordinance that prevented that from happening in some of the properties, the derelict properties, for instance, the one behind Borough Hall?
Is this
For years
basically
and years?
tighten that up?
Yeah, this is to tighten that up and to also permit, and I actually should have mentioned this when I read through, that it'll allow the cost, whatever, if the borough spends money on fixing it up, that gets charged back to the property owner.
In way of a lien?
Correct, yes, sorry.
But my question, was there something in the ordinance that prevented the town from acting on properties like that behind the old Borough Hall before?
I think it stopped us from putting the lien on it in our ordinance. That was the main.
Transferring the
Correct,
expense?
the cost of whatever we had to do, we have to step in. I think it also set the parameters stricter, it was a little vague, in my opinion, that's kind of why we had this discussion.
There really wasn't an explicit
To get to this
mechanism to abate nuisances. There were ordinances, I guess you could interpret to permit that, but nothing directly on point, so this really, I guess, narrows it down.
And out of curiosity, the recourse of the property owner is the court?
I would assume like every other ordinance or resolution.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I sort of, Barbara?
Yeah, I was just asking who would take the responsibility of the cost.
Yeah.
And I would assume this is after a couple of rounds of code.
Yeah, it's not gonna be the first time we go there and bulldoze it and then you gotta pay 20 grand, you know. We didn't really have a system in place, if you will, that was strong enough and written the right way until if we pass this tonight. And this will clear cut, put the cost of this on the property owner, who then will have a series of things they didn't answer to or appear at
Right.
before we're able to do this, just like anything else. Yes, ma'am.
What is the relationship to this ordinance change and the list that Tim has been tracking over the last year of houses that will be targeted for taking down?
I would assume it works hand in hand, but I'm not gonna speak for you.
I think it works hand in hand, but that list that you refer to that we were working on was for the PPDR program, and that list has shrunk exponentially. However, there's still houses out there that are identified. I think the role of this is also to reestablish the substandard housing committee, and that was one of the recommendations, to make sure before we put that back into play that they have some more clear-cut bite on what we want to do going forward. So I think it's going to be I think it's a big help, and it clarifies some of the issue.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Kim Skorka, 315 Shore Drive. My interpretation was more, we can board up the houses that don't have doors on them. Board up a window that's open. And I think of that because this came to light only after Chief Blewett mentioned those cottages. I think they're on John Street. And some of us filed a petition with code enforcement because they are wide open to animals, kids, drug users, and it's still wide open. With this now, what would the steps be for the town to now go and board up those cottages?
This would address that. This would permit the governing body
Do we
to
still
pass.
have to notice the owners?
There's always gonna be a notice process, but this, actually, we have to do anything more than putting up a couple boards.
And just to
This
clarify, what you're
transfers the
talking-
cost.
I don't want to interrupt on that, but that case is before the courts, and I believe all except one of those units has now a door on. I'm not going to
I
defend
think
the
I saw a
door.
back door on one, but not a front. So it looked like something had been done, but it wasn't totally.
I'm just saying, I drove by the
And
other
that was-
day
that
and I
was the
saw
one.
doors on all the fronts. I didn't go to
Okay.
the back, but
The
the
amendment
goal
is
of this
also-
is now to allow us to either via contract or Public Works get that taken care of in a more expeditious manner.
Okay.
But that particular is in the courts.
Well, the verbiage also, just talk about this ordinance now, the verbiage also says, emergency repair, vacation, or demolition shall be collected in the manner, subsection 10-4.11, which gives us the right to go after their property.
And that's the lien.
Or lien.
That references
Right.
the lien. Or you could just go after them in a civil suit in court.
I was just curious if, because this isn't the first time this year that I've seen a house without a front door on, a vacant house without a front door, what the time frame would be. Can the town go out the next day because it is an emergency issue?
There is a time for
It
what?
depends, and even in the ordinance, separate from the due process that you have to follow, it does say the public officer may take such measures as may be necessary to make the building temporarily safe. And
Okay.
by other resolution, I believe we've appointed Tim as the public officer for that. So.
But what is the time frame? If, let's say for argument's sake, it passes tonight, isn't there a wait period? Usually?
Here, it's as soon as you sign it.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
What was the answer to that? Does it take effect
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately. Some of them you have a, posting period or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how to, we just came out of court from our fire on 30 Shrewsbury Avenue, and one of the weakest points of our ordinance is the definition of what is safe and what is secured. And the time frame from the homeowner being notified that they have an unsafe structure to the time frame of the due diligence until the town can step up and actually either put a board up and all that. If a fire should happen, and it goes to court of law, quite honestly, the judge said our ordinance protected the property owner of with the negligence. So, I mean, it's safe, secure, and I'm looking at you because the judge was very, very specific about the wording. It actually protected the negligent homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to show me that the specific ordinance he was talking about, or in your case, we could talk about that. We'd be happy to look at that, and if
Because I
that's
think it would
something
help the
that
town.
should be cleaned up, then we can.
Yeah, because it's the
Introduce an
time frame
ordinance.
between the time of the calling the homeowner out or that property owner out to actually making it truly safe and secure is the risk.
And this
Right.
state's
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah, and this is gonna prevent, like in the situations where if you think something is gonna, if Tim goes over there and he thinks this is gonna collapse, right now, right then and there, there's some immediate danger that it'll permit them to take measures immediately.
right.
And then also things that are just more of a nuisance, such as a door, not being on a
Like
building,
another
something
building.
that it's not an immediate concern. permit the governing body to go through the resolution process and go that way.
Sorry, I may not understand, so you give notification to that homeowner yesterday that their house has got doors wide open, and they turn around and say, contact my attorney,
But they don't answer.
or they don't answer, and there is a nuisance, and the next door neighbor say, hey, that's next to my house, I don't want my house to burn down. I want the town to board it up. Can the town go board it up and secure it? Or do they have to wait the 30 days or 60 days?
It would be, in Tim's opinion, if it's an immediate, if it poses an
Immediate
immediate
danger.
threat to danger, then in theory, then they could go up and board it up right then and there. If in their opinion it's not, immediate, life-threatening right then and there, then it'll just go through the normal process.
I just need to clarify one thing. I believe in our ordinance, it specifies not Tim. And I'll be willing to take that role on, but I
Can we
believe
amend
that
that
is
to Tim?
defined. The public officer is the property maintenance or construction office, so they will be held. Tim will follow up with them, I guarantee you, but they'll be given direct direction. And part of our goal is to, when we hear that, let's put a plan in place to go attack it. That's part of what this whole thing is about. So I just, for the record, I thought I should at least clear that up.
So they can
Part of the
actually do
process.
this in theory tomorrow, because it says it shall take effect after final passage if it passed tonight.
Can I ask this to the attorney? Like this one place that's been brought up, or any one of them. Some of these were reported 90 days ago. The doors are still open. He's saying that if there's a fire in there, the homeowners, he's off free and clear. If it's in court, can you go and board it up? Or do you say, no, it's still in court, it has to get through the court process?
It really depends on the circumstances. Let's say it's an abandoned house
Yeah.
that's in court, you could board that up. If there's a dispute over whether there's some imminent threat to public safety or not, it really depends on all the facts, whether we would make a decision to go board that up or not.
You mean the property maintenance person?
Right. By we, I meant the borough.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, then it should be boarded up. The one that I'm talking about has at least 2 doors wide open, and it's been that way for 90 days. And I've just been scared to death that somebody's gonna break in and start a fire because it's cold, and it's gonna take out the block. Yeah, and it's happened,
We're living
and that's why I'm glad that you guys passed this ordinance, because I think if it's enforced, it would work. If it's not enforced,
I think it would give them, if we do pass it tonight, it gives them the tools to enforce it, and an apparatus to charge
She
it.
just said a boarded up house that's secured and boarded up for the town ordinance is not safer than a house that was left condemned for 7 years with doors falling off the hinges and everybody's knowing about it. So you're saying it's unsafe to board up a house?
No,
I'm confused.
First of all,
Why, you guys can talk outside, we don't gotta be involved in the conversation. No more questions, public hearing's closed.
Respect the floor.
Offer? I'll offer it.
On for third and final reading and adoption is ordinance 0-14-6, an ordinance amending chapter 10, buildings and housing to conform to the requirements of NJSA 48-1 and to allow the borough to determine and abate certain
no, it wasn't
nuisances.
anything personal.
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond, Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr.
That's what
Francie,
I said. I told him.
Yes.
That's
Ms.
okay.
Kane,
Yes.
No.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes. 14-8, we're moving to 416, or I'm gonna offer that, because it's still waiting for the local finance board approval.
I'll second.
Offered by Mayor Nolan, seconded by Ms. Kane,
Oh,
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Mr. Francie.
Yep.
Ms. Kane,
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Borough engineer report.
Dale, you're on.
Okay. First I'll talk about the flood reduction program. Excuse me, I have a sinus infection, so I apologize. As you authorize us tonight to move forward, we to finalize the plans, get the permits updated, get this project moving forward to advertisement. Second thing would be the Bayside Drive project. I was in discussion with the contractor as late as today. We have negotiated a couple prices. I was able to get rid of about $3,000 on the change order. He assured me I will have it scheduled by the end of the week as to finishing up that wall.
Okay.
A couple of punch items he's got to resolve too. But by the end of the week I should have a schedule of that. the Bay Street retaining wall in front of house number 8. I sent an email out late today, with costs for the two options. So as soon as council gives me some kind of consensus as to what option to go with, we can finish up those plans and also get that project moved forward. The Warwich Linden Avenue Drainage Project, Mr. Hill was gracious enough to get us the help with DPW and police to open up the manholes. Unfortunately, the equipment failed that DPW was using, so we got half the work done. We just have to reschedule another day to complete that work. All that is, it's investigating the sanitary sewer, so we don't have any conflicts with the pipe, the new pipe we're going to be putting in. As soon as we get that information tied down, we could finalize that project and move that out to bid as well. Last, which really isn't under me, but I want to talk about it anyways, the pipe on Washington Avenue by Recreation. That will be started on Friday. Brandon's Construction, who we authorized earlier, several months earlier, has assured me that Friday will be out there doing some preliminary work with the intention of starting that project next week. A couple of days it should be completed. Basically, he wanted to go out there today, wasn't able to with the time constraints. Friday looks good, and so does early next week. So hopefully, with any luck, we'll have that project completed next week as well.
And it's a precast.
Yeah, as far as I know. We spoke about that before, but as far as I know, it is. So I have not seen it in their yard, but we will certainly talk about it. And that's pretty much our report for tonight.
Go ahead, Mr. Francis.
Question for Dale. There's a large sinkhole on Highlands, Twin Peak, and Ocean at that intersection.
Yeah, it's an old
Is that a
inlet.
warranty issue?
Well, what it was I sent Fury out there. Fury did the Highland Avenue work. It's actually not his inlet, it's the inlet that we put in 10, 12 years ago. So I sent an email out to Tim Carolyn. We didn't have to have a contractor go out and do it, or something that DPW could do to take that lid off and reset a couple of blocks and then reset the casting. We could do it that way too. But it's nothing that the Highland Avenue contractor did.
Okay. So we have no recourse financial.
But at this point, Tim will take care of it.
One way or the other.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Francis?
No, good. Excuse me, just one more thing. On the drainage project, your proposal talked about a review of the plans and talking about the intersection between your plan and Army Corps,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. When will we get the results of that in your mind, or how will you present that information to us?
Once we get through it, because we're going to come back and say, okay, look, this is what the plans are. The mayor and the administrator sign off as required by GIF. So at that point, we'll review the plans with council.
Okay.
And then we can put it out in the street. The only potential conflict I see right now would maybe be the pump station at Jones Creek and the potential levy that the Corps wants to do. But everything else is more inland than anything else. So it'd just be a matter of making sure that the DBIS pipe and this project doesn't conflict themselves too. So.
But it also does talk, at this point, it's the point in time to introduce any of the I&I work that could be incorporated within that contract. It would be an expansion of price, but we would get the work done without tearing
We
up
can
the
certainly
road.
include that, yeah. It would make sense to do it at that point.
Okay, let's make
All
sure.
right, we're going to be
Hand in hand, obviously.
we're going to be putting an RFP out to do to clean the sewers within the next week or so. It's something that's long overdue from Sandy, so we're going to clean them. We're going to televise them, identify any issues that may not have reared their ugly heads yet.
Okay.
So I talked to the CFO. We do have the financial capabilities to do so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Tim, you talking about the transportation alternative program?
Yeah, the TAP program, we actually met with Millennium Strategies, our grant writing firm, the other day, and this was also sent, I think, via email to the clerk. So we are going to be soliciting some recommendations, suggestions. It's kind of a wide open program. In discussion, we've identified various items through the long-term recovery plan. So we want to see really what meets up with the TAP process. They do highlight provisions of facilities for bicycles and pedestrians, which was identified in the plan. Historic preservation, scenic or historic highway programs. There's some things that we really don't tie into, but the tourist and welcome center ideas that have been kicked around as far as kiosks at different locations, all of that may be available potentially through this program. So we really need to, I mean, the application deadline is in May, but Millennium Strategies will be working on this for us. We just need to give them the direction.
Do you need anything from the governing body, just a vote of yes or no?
At this point, I don't think this is just for informational
Okay.
sake. They're inclined to move at the direction to get things moving. If we need anything from a financial, in terms of matches, we'll get all that info for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
The same holds true with the next item.
Which
Mayor,
is Safe Routes to School program?
Safe routes to school. This is very competitive. However, we've been encouraged, and we are going to try to apply for everything that we can. One of the areas that has been identified repeatedly through the years is particularly the sidewalk area coming down from the trailer park up on the hill. There is no sidewalk. In terms of speaking with the grant writer, they're familiar with the community, but they're always saying you need to look at something that's really going to have a real impact. They're not just going to put in an application that really doesn't make sense. So the governing body would have to give direction on that, but that was one thing that came up at the table that as a possible, unless there's any other identified, someone from the audience or ever you want to get in touch with me about an idea, we're certainly willing to entertain that as well. But these funds are very, very competitive.
So you're gonna come back at the next meeting and let us know what we have to do, if anything, on the two?
Yeah, or if anybody wants, like I said, to give input, feel free to definitely
Contact you directly.
Yes, Chris.
I have I sent that notice around to the Environmental Committee, and they're suggesting that the Stymies project, that Overlook Park, for which there are a set of plans or rough plans or sketches developed, that might be something that would seem to be covered. And I'd like to suggest that be considered.
Okay,
And I'll send you an email on that.
okay. Yeah, that would be for the TAP one, not safe routes.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay? So you'll come back to the table with the next,
absolutely.
okay?
Can I ask a question regarding?
Please,
the
go
grant?
ahead.
From working on the committee, the environmental committee, some questions came up. This millennium, will they have some kind of report or status report letting us know possible grants out there that we may not know firsthand?
That's coming directly to the governing body, yes.
Or what we applied for already, things like that.
Okay.
There'll
And
be
then-
a status update that's gonna be
Okay.
provided to the governing body. They actually sent it to me last meeting, but I got it prior to coming up here. But yes, on a monthly basis, we'll have a status report of what they've applied for, where we're at in the process. They're also going to be working with us with identified nonprofits that may be seeking funds in cooperation with the town. So there are some opportunities out there for some nonprofits that they're willing to look at, but they're not going to do that independently of the governing body.
Is there any reason, with the public applications, we can't make it known to the public when we get that report? I know some of the private agencies, you don't want
Right, I think
thousands of
what,
people jumping on.
Yeah.
I was more coming from a committee angle. I know we were discussing this at our meeting, that some of these grants go in cycles and you don't know they're up and about, and they have like a 3-month
that's why we've employed Millennium.
application. Yes, but some of these committees that the governing body has trying to work on different areas of Highlands, and may be able to expedite or get something going, but if they're not aware of an available
We gotta make it to the
grant-
public, period, I think. It's
Yeah, no,
not everybody.
I think, I'm not sure what your question is. If the committee's working on something,
Right,
I'll throw any committee out there.
yep,
Feel free to get in touch with me.
okay.
On a
So-
regular basis, though, Millennium will be doing a report. I mean, they're sending me blurbs on things that, like a bus which is great. Were we really gonna apply for a bus right now? No. Down the
Right.
future, we may. So they're sending me everything. So if there's a need that we're identifying from a committee standpoint, absolutely. But I'm not sure of your question. If they're working on a particular grant and need information, absolutely, whatever appropriate committee, they're gonna be referred to as well.
Okay.
They're not gonna create things on their own.
No, but like you mentioned the bus, out of the blue, there's one who needed it, but, there may be some committee or some group working in Highlands that may find a very good reason for that bus that you that's not on your priority list. And if it's a matter of just knowing it's available and possibly going for it, I was really asking, what's the process to get that going?
So it sounds like I go to you.
Yes.
Okay.
But also, is it possible, Tim, that if a group is seeking something,
Yeah.
that they
Right.
could go to Millennium and say, can you
No,
find
no.
something?
They should go
No,
through
they
Ted.
need to
Okay,
come
I mean to
through.
you, excuse me.
That's
to go
one
to
thing
you.
that was very clear
Go
from the
to you.
beginning, that under the contract that we have, they're willing to be as flexible as they can to help out the identified groups, but they're not gonna want every
Right.
Right.
Okay, so I'm
nonprofit that came
I'm going to
aboard.
reiterate, okay?
Yes.
That if somebody has a need, they can go to you.
Yes, or if there's something they're working on, and Millennium, prior to even getting awarded, had the long-term recovery plan. We gave that out to everybody who was soliciting our business, so to speak, so they understood some of the areas that we were really looking for. So they're already targeting and identifying through that process. But yes, anything that comes up, likewise, if you have something, please feel free to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Okay. Number 4 is request for refund of sewer payments. Who wants to speak to this? Okay, I will. I know in the past we've had folks that couldn't live in the house for one reason or another, whether it be damage individually or obviously Sandy and things like that. We've denied refunds. This one, in my opinion, is a little different. They noticed that for many years they were being billed a sewer for Unit 4, which is located at 65th Street, and it's basically a boathouse that never had a sewer. And they were requesting reimbursement back from 2005. I don't know if that's when they started being billed, or if that was one of the owners took over there. It looks like there's a current and a previous owner involved in this. So, Bruce, legally, are we required to do anything, or what can we do or not do?
Generally, our rule's been that we don't do anything on these.
Okay.
If, under these circumstances, there's a desire to do something, I'm gonna need to look into it a little bit further and report back at the next meeting.
Have we ever had one where they just, like somebody was being billed with sewer for a shed in essence? Because that's kind of,
But you don't notice
I
for
wouldn't know
like
that.
10 years?
I'm not debating and any of that with you, I'm just asking a question. This is not a difference where,
Yeah.
they had to move out for rebuilding, or they moved out because of Sandy, or, God forbid, they had an issue with the house other than that. This is an issue where I guess they were being built for what in essence is a boathouse or a shack or a shed. What do you want to do, guys?
No.
This is complicated because they're asking to restore this boat shed as a structure.
Okay,
So we should probably hold it because it's going.
Correct.
it's going for our planning board, correct?
Yeah, if we grant this,
Hearing.
Is it impacting that process?
because then they have to pay a hookup fee for the 4th unit, because they've abandoned it by that letter.
Okay,
That's gonna cost them $4,600,
For the
and I don't,
hookup.
for the hookup, and I don't know what they're gonna get back. So at this point, it's probably worthwhile waiting.
to wait until the planning board decision is rendered?
Yeah, it's on the next meeting.
Okay,
And there could be some legal ramifications
if we do that
this one,
before
so
that, while it's
why don't
out.
we put this on the executive session for next meeting?
Okay,
And I'll give
let's,
you my
you want to do it
opinion
the
on
next meeting or the second one, because the planning board's after.
Well, we do the
Let's do it on the
second one.
16th, this way hopefully we'll have a resolution at the planning board. Okay, everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Review professional engineering proposal for Veterans Park. Dale, is that you?
I guess it is.
Okay. It says professional engineer on it, just assume.
Basically, Mr. Hill had asked us for a proposal to mitigate Veterans Park, restore the damage that Sandy had caused, have look at mitigation measures, such as moving the electric closer to the street, up a little higher so it's out of harm's way, possibly changing the boardwalk area to something that's more sustainable, that can take the wave surge, the storm surges. So we submitted a proposal. It's in front of you guys for consideration when you see fit, if you see fit, and then we'll go from there. But it's basically just restoring the park from Sandy.
Okay. Tim, were we able to recoup any of these fees if we go forward?
We may be able to get some, it's not all Sandy related though, and I have to state that, here at the
Sure.
table, it's not all Sandy related.
Right.
Anything that potentially is Sandy related, from mitigation standpoint, we'll be seeking, but any improvements that we do or repairs that are made, and there's also, just like we work with FEMA, there's discussion on the boardwalk itself, was it that damaged, And so we're in the middle of that as usual. So I recommend that we move forward because I think we need a plan in place. And I think we are going to get some funds from FEMA, but I don't want to say that we're going to get a whole lot back on this one.
Dale, what's the total cost of this estimate?
49,000, second, it's on the second page.
Okay.
That's for your fees.
Right.
No, to do the part.
To do the part, is that what you're telling us?
You gotta get the other end.
Well, I know what you're asking.
I'm gonna weigh in on this too.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I was going to ask you next, Steve.
Okay. Originally.
What is the total price?
That's what I'm looking for now.
Okay. Because there's three numbers on it.
No.
Well, there's, for alternate design, you got a third number.
Okay. So what's the total potentially?
That's, I'm looking for my copy.
100,000.
It's more than that.
How much?
It's more than that.
Okay.
Boardwalk alone is gonna be a lot.
Okay.
Now, we had looked into, we spoke with different companies about donating funds, donating material.
But we don't have a
Still,
design yet,
right,
and we're
right.
looking at mitigating. The mitigation that he's talking about with regards to the boardwalk is to bring it, not a raised structure that then can be damaged by incoming wave and
So about a
tide.
concrete and paver walkway behind the seawall.
As we go further, we can also look about
Sir.
getting some of these things.
Oh, we'll absolutely
It's
go
potential
forward
that the
with
Army
soliciting,
Corps
but
project
you don't
will
have, you can't
impact
solicit
that
the other.
space.
I don't disagree.
So I'm not sure what we should be doing pending knowledge of their plans.
Well, I don't think we should spend $100,000 to figure out. a way.
It's not in the proposal, what I'll do is I can forward you the cost estimate tomorrow.
Okay, so we're not voting on something out of dollar down, obviously.
No, absolutely.
Steve, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, originally, when I first saw the proposal, until I just heard what Tim said, I was thinking that we had funding in place to handle this. But if this is not all Sandy related, then that
It's
changes.
definitely not.
Yeah, then that changes where this could be funded from, so I think, let Dale come back with what the proposal, what the estimated costs are, and we'd be moving with a separate, funding source with the bond ordinance, in order to do this.
And how does this area potentially become impacted by the proposed Army Corps of Engineer project?
There's a plan to incorporate,
It impacts the waterfront.
there's a plan,
I kinda
at this
do the
point,
enterprise.
depending upon the alignment, all right, they're talking about going along the shore there and then turning towards Bay Avenue right at Gateway Marina. And so that whole surface would be hardened
Right.
with
So
a,
what you would
with a
spend to do would
walkway
be
on
ripped
top.
up and redone.
Correct, completely.
Now,
And then-
this is a Green Acres Park, so I don't know if there'll be any Green Acres money available to do any kind of repairs or upgrades or improvements. Potentially.
We should probably find all that out before we bring it
Yeah,
back to the
but I
table.
think that, I mean, the reality
We
is.
know a couple
Yeah, I
things
wasn't
like
sure why it was on the agenda, we just submitted it.
When I read it, I
Bring
wasn't
it
sure
up.
either.
That's,
$3.
just a little bit of my concern is, this Army Corps project could be a lot
20
longer
years
than any
ago.
of us
I
can sit
understand
here, and it's a hazard right now to go down there.
But at least let's know the dollars and
Right,
cents.
you know, even if we don't do a full-blown plan, I think we have to
Shore it up.
fix
Yeah,
it.
make it safe.
'Cause it-
Shore it up,
you know.
pardon the pun.
Okay.
Okay, let's get a real number for the next meeting if we can, so we know what
I'll
we're.
give you the cost estimate tomorrow. the
Well,
construction
let's,
dollars.
yeah, but we're gonna obviously have it at a public
That's fine.
setting, so everybody understands, because there's different amounts on that. Okay, plan lease. Bruce, you wanna
Mr.
start
Mayor,
this?
this came,
Well,
oh, go
I
ahead,
asked
you can
for
take it, yeah.
Okay, all right, I just wanna know what's going on. Over a year ago, I asked what was going on about with the RFP, and I've been trying to find out about meetings, et cetera. So anything you know, Bruce, please let me know.
Okay.
That's all of us.
You know, the lease is up August 31st, 2015.
Yes.
There was a request to start negotiating a new lease
Yes.
by the current leaseholders, and we haven't taken any actions.
Have we sent a formal letter to the
We've
chairman?
formally communicated with them.
No, the chairman of the commission to start holding meetings.
I thought we discussed that.
We talked about it, but I'm asking, I'm only asking if we sent a letter.
I mean, we could send a letter, but, I mean, at this,
No, we haven't.
yeah.
So I think we should have to send it in writing tomorrow, to please schedule and start having meetings
And there has
Because-
not been one meeting about this?
since Sandy.
Since then, you know,
Not that I'm aware of.
Why not?
A lot of reasons. I don't know that they're all justifiable, but there was a lot of reasons. So, since we have not sent a formal letter, let's send a formal letter. That'd be my recommendation. I'm not, I've only got one vote.
Can we send a formal letter requesting that the meeting happen before our next
Within
meeting?
30 days.
With 30 days?
Well, because you gotta find a facility. That's the
Well,
only-
and also one of the council, former councilman Piazza, he said he can use the firehouse. on
Great,
Tuesday.
then let's put that in there.
So,
Current fire chief,
he said,
Piazza.
feel free to use the building. I know he's
coordinate that
also a
with him, and
member.
there's probably a lot of days that they're free then, you're correct?
Yeah,
And
just
then I
not
put
Tuesday. Just not Tuesday.
Fine.
So,
We used to meet on Monday nights anyway, so that shouldn't be
Yeah.
impacted greatly by that.
and he's also, you know,
And we request that there's a
Would you want me to
meeting.
communicate with?
I would put it in writing, so let's put it in writing.
No,
Yeah, and can we have it within 30 days, the first meeting scheduled, and then the rest, a tentative schedule for the rest of the year?
and then I guess the other question that I would have is, if they came to us asking us to renegotiate the lease, is that, I know it's up to the subcommittee, I would guess, and then come to us for approval, is that what we want to do, or do we wanna go out with an RFP?
I think we should weigh
For the
our
whole thing?
options, like,
You know what I
give them
mean, I don't
direction
wanna
of-
just say, okay, they wanna renegotiate the lease, sure, that'd be great.
If you
But
want
is
to
that
talk
in our
about
best
also,
interest,
just
you
be
know?
careful about talk about your negotiating position, because that's executive session
Okay.
material.
But what we should do, I think Rebecca is right, I think we should give them, let's say till whatever time you want, to come back to us with suggestions, and then get together in the executive session and put out what we want to put out, because I think we all have different ideas of what could or, should happen now.
Right.
And we could probably come together on some consensus and then put it out there. Sound good? Everybody's on board? Okay, planning board memo on master plan. Bruce, you want to speak to that?
Sure, the borough received a letter dated March 14th from the planning board attorney. I had it underneath here, it is, requesting two things, that the master plan review be expanded to include a review of the entire master plan and adoption of a new master plan due to massive damage suffered by the borough from the Hurricane Sandy, and also requested to extend the review period in order to consider the results of the numerous studies being conducted by the governmental agencies and Rutgers.
They asked that that they don't have to even start, I believe, until August of 2014.
That's when it's anticipated that those
Results will
studies
be-
would be done.
So we, I think, agreed as a council to extend it to September to start, so then they have at least 30 days, let's say it comes in August 5th. They have 30 days to digest it, and all those plans will then be public to everybody. So are we okay with a motion? Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, you might as well.
I'll offer that we extend their being allowed to even start looking at it until September of this year, 2014.
Okay.
Second.
So that would be a resolution, just for the record, to grant the request of the planning board as stated in the 3/14/14 correspondence from its attorney incorporated herein by reference, which includes expanding the review of the entire master plan and adoption of a new master plan and extending the review period to September 1st.
I will offer that as is, and for the record add that was voted on unanimously at the planning board.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Francie. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yep.
Ms. Kane?
Yes,
Mayor Nolan.
Yes. Next is what, Monmouth County Planning Board, request for a representative?
I can speak on that, Mayor.
Please.
Monmouth County Master Plan Municipal Representatives Working Group is being formulated by Monmouth County. They requested that the borough appoint someone to attend these meetings that I believe are going to be held during the day out at one of the county offices. So they're requesting that a working group member represent our community and that they be appointed hopefully by April 1st of 2014, and then they'll be involved in the process.
Do they want a governing body member or a planning board member? Or both?
They're stating, please appoint 1 or 2 members to this task, preferably a planning board or governing body member.
Or
Other
both.
representatives, which they wish that you would consider, is, I'll skip the first one, it says administrator, clerk, engineer,
They didn't say you by name?
environmental commissioner, so that it's broad-based, but they would like for a very committed, but the time frame,
It's
as I
during the day.
understand it, the meetings will be held during the day, and they'll be pretty intense working groups.
Anybody there?
We were involved in this process in the past, through the Bay Shore Regional Plan, and so that's the
Who did it in the past? Andy? Was it you?
At that time, yes, I wasn't serving as the the borough administrator, but yes, myself, there was representatives from the planning board, there was representatives from the business partnership, there was representative from the mobile homeowners association at that time. So there was a cross-reference. At this particular, they're only requesting 2 representatives be appointed.
Okay, from the governing body, I'll nominate Mr. Francie, he volunteered. Anyone else could volunteer too if they want. I can't do it during the day. That's why there'll be no one in the audience either, which is it's unbelievable. Anyone want to second that? Or
I'll second it.
let's do a roll call, even though it's not, I guess, a formal resolution.
Okay, offered by Mayor Nolan, second by Mr. Redmond.
Mr. Redmond, yeah.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yeah.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. Do we have any other, did anybody get contacted by any members of the zoning or planning board or? I
No
guess,
one's
long-term
forwarded any
recovery or?
contact to us, and Mayor, I would be willing to sit if you guys so chose that I should be there.
Well, do you want to do that, or do we want to, by the way, you have, all my confidence, I know you got a million things coming in more with the rebuilding. Maybe we should put it out there to the people on our long-term recovery groups and the folks that sit
Having
on the
one
plan.
forwarded at this point, I think if you're making that motion tonight, we can get that info in.
Do you
and
want to
we
do
can
that?
follow
Let's put it out there to who else wants to be on it. And some of the project champions, maybe, whatever. It's going to be tough for us for the day.
Yeah, that's,
Do we need a motion on that, Bruce, or just direct Mr. Hill to do that?
You could just direct it.
Okay, we're going to direct you to do that, all right? So now you have to have feedback by when from the folks.
Well, they'd like it by April 1st, but I'm
Somebody
sure
in
if I
the put out
contact
there, let's see.
the chairperson tomorrow, let them know the status of what we're doing, I'm sure we'll get.
And anybody in the audience would like to volunteer to see Mr. Hill after the meeting?
Sure.
Put your name in the hat in the ring, if you will. And then it keeps him from having to do it.
What'll
Anything else?
happen-
I don't know, I want to make sure I have a current one. Is there anything else on our other business? That was the last thing I had.
New Jersey.
number 10.
Number, oh, no, there's 9 and 10, I apologize. NJEDA Neighborhood and Community Revitalization Grant Program. Who's speaking of that? Mr. Hill?
I'll speak to that. That was another item that came up through our meeting the other day with Millennium Strategies. Even though the EDA grant is a forgivable loan funding available, the interpretation is that they closed the program out, but they still are soliciting letters of intent because there's a lot of projects that were supposedly submitted that may not cut the muster as to the real intent of those dollars. That's coming from a higher level down to us. So we're encouraged to put an LOI in, which I think we should formally do. And then we'll see where it goes from there. It could be up to, and I don't want to give people, false hopes, but up to $5 million for infrastructure projects owned by the municipality.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
it was proposed by Jennifer from FEMA,
Di Lorenzo.
Di Lorenzo, that our I&I project could qualify on the EDA grant. And they sent us the link to the grant application, and it was really over my head to fill out that grant. It
When
was
we have our grant writer do it.
correct.
No, Millennium's willing. Yes,
And so-
absolutely.
So we let them
And
know the feedback from FEMA.
We talked to EDA, and the EDA program, the grant manager, thought that we could, it was a great project for it.
Okay.
That's everything we discussed at the table the other day without talking to you, but you're right. I didn't know about that.
So they're going to apply for that in.
Yes, I gotta give them direction
And I'm
tomorrow.
gonna send you a link to what was discussed with Jennifer Di Lorenzo and FEMA.
Sounds like that will work out. Good.
Thank you.
Open Space Committee member, I think this is on here just to make everybody aware we have a vacancy. Ms. Kane sits on that committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think the vacancy is Russell Card, correct?
Okay, he stepped down.
I don't know.
Okay.
All we got was the vacancy.
I just saw his name highlighted, I didn't want to speak out of turn.
Debbie, Carol reached out to him to see if he wanted to keep his term, his seat.
Okay, worst case scenario, we can take citizen participation
wanna keep
forms,
it?
and if he wants it, he can get reappointed, or other people can.
Oh, he didn't respond? Okay,
Okay, well, let's try to contact him one more time.
right.
And
if
then
not,
we will also open it up tomorrow to the citizen participation forums at the Borough Hall trailer.
Right, and just to confirm, Tim, we are on for April 9th, correct?
April 9th, where, when,
April 9th,
what time?
right? Kim, April 9th?
Yes,
I keep thinking to look at my email and make sure it's on my calendar.
it is the 9th. I got
You
confused,
sure it's
there's
the
5
April
First
9th is
Thursday,
a-
Well, I
second and
guess it
fourth,
is.
yes. We
So,
moved it
it's
to
a
the
council
9th, and it is gonna be at
Is that
19
Thursday?
Bay Avenue.
I think it's Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Well, but
Do you
Okay, so
have,
it's
Becky,
one
do you
after.
have the list in front of you of the proposed members or the,
I did, hold on.
The committee members, we have it on.
Yeah, because I had asked Carolyn to notify all of them.
okay, because is there a Mr. Gully still on that list?
Mr. Who?
Gully.
Do you have
I
it or no?
think Kim may be Mr. Gully now, because it comes through.
Mr.
Change your
Gully.
name.
What's his first name?
I
Jeremy.
think Jeremy is. he
Jeremy
still-
doesn't live in town anymore.
Right,
So that's
so
probably why
why
he's
I
not
was-
on the committee.
I think we replaced him.
Okay, just making sure, because his mother came in the other day and thought he was still on the committee, so I told her.
Tell her he
I
moved
haven't
out of
seen
town.
him.
I was gonna say, if we're telling her that, we got a problem.
She came to me.
There's an
I
issue.
don't know how she heard, but she came to me.
We have currently on there, by my list,
Yeah, that's the right one.
we have Council President Kane, Doug Whitman, Russell Card, who's highlighted, so I assume he hasn't re-upped, Nancy Burton, Kim Skorka, Jeremy Gully, and Lori Salvo.
So Gully is still on there, so we may have another opening, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
It says Russell Card's term expired at the end of last year. So if he hasn't re-upped, let's ask him if he wants to. If not, we'll open it
We'll
to
follow up.
And then Tim, if we could just make sure Carolyn contacts all of them and lets them know where and when we're meeting on the 9th.
Do we know right now or no?
It's probably, could be Tim's office, I would think.
Okay,
19 day.
19th.
upstairs, the penthouse. Okay, we're gonna go to public portion. Kim Skorka.
Kim Skorka, 315 Shore Drive. I moved to town in 2005, so I wasn't here for the last master plan revisit. Can you tell me what this entails? Like, what is the planning board doing? What's this gonna cost?
Between 80 and 100 grand. They go in and identify things that they think should be updated or changed. And the last time, I don't think we did it. I think we did it after that.
There were a couple re-examinations that I saw.
I think the last one took a year and a half. if I'm not mistaken.
2008,
Year and a half.
2009, yeah.
It's about a year and a half. It was finished, I think, about a year and a half after the start.
Okay, and a re-examination costs that much?
No, re-examination is about 60, if I remember.
Okay. And is it possible that the planning board might come back and do a re-examination?
I think that's why they want all the data in from all the other studies that are out there, because they can then take that information and either use it all, use some of it, or incorporate it into a re-examination or revisit
I
entirely.
think Rutgers gonna be done by May 1st with their?
May 20th.
Yeah, I think that they had a couple other things they want to digest it, and, you
Right,
know,
so
and then the
they're
summer
gonna
you always
be-
have members not there, and
At some point, we should do a,
Right.
they want to make a presentation,
public presentation.
public presentation.
We'll do like town hall meetings. style thing.
Correct. Can we combine it with the planning board at the same time?
I think we can, if we notice, we can get everybody there. Zoning, planning, like we did the one down at the tech.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
A little bit. I'm just curious, because I've read the master plan recently, and there wasn't anything glaring in light of Sandy that needs to be changed, in my opinion.
Okay, that's your opinion.
There's a lot of things in the master plan that the town hasn't done over the past 10 years. And I'm wondering why we're gonna spend $100,000 to sit on another report that gets us nowhere.
Okay, I don't agree with you totally. I think there's a lot of things that can be updated and streamlined. I think we're doing it in bits and pieces with certain things here. But I know that there's some of those members that have probably been sitting there for 10 years, all agreed unanimously we should revisit it. And want to wait till all the other data comes in. Clearly, all these studies happening are not gonna come back and say leave it as is.
What do you think needs to be changed in there?
I could sit here till tomorrow and tell you.
Give me like the top three biggest changes you would like to see.
Density, streamlining of the process, maybe a combined, 2 or 3 steps that could be combined through ordinance. I think a lot of the things that Dale's going through right now can be addressed, that he's literally waiting on applications so people can go to a board and doesn't know what board to send them to, because we have pending ordinances right now. And talking to the people that sit on the planning board and some of the former members, they all agree. And I think that you're gonna come back with these studies and it's gonna show you a lot of things that we're not even thinking of. Because it's people who are outside of the forest looking in. And I can assure you that a lot of these studies are not gonna say sit as is.
So are we going to drop things like revitalizing Bay Avenue, code enforcement?
I don't think
You know,
that revitalizing Bay
fixing flood
Avenue,
mitigation.
I think revitalizing Bay
Infrastructure.
Avenue is gonna be part of it, I would assume. I mean, I'm only gonna be one vote on the planning board and at the council table.
Mitigation of the flooding, code enforcement, those were big things in the 2004 master plan. The town, I'm assuming, spent about $100,000 for
Probably
this,
between 60 and 80, if I had to
between
guess.
60 and 80.
In those days.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Between $60,000 and $80,000 for a book that we didn't do anything for 10 years. And I'm having a hard time because the budget for this year, according to Mr. Pfeffer, is okay. 2015 is going to be tight. Are we going to have an extra $100,000 to do another book that's just going to sit on a shelf and collect dust for 10 years? And when the citizens come and say, hey, can you please enforce the code? It's in your master plan. And we get told no. Well, now you've spent $100,000 and you're blatantly disregarding it. Not just forgetting about it, but just totally going against it. I don't think it's the best use of our money.
Okay.
And does anybody else, I heard from Mayor Nolan, I'd like to hear from the other council members.
Sure, they could talk anytime they want.
I'd like to make one comment, all right? Yes, we had a master plan in 2004, and it talks about a vision for Bay Avenue. But the reality is, Bay Avenue, and we've had 2, maybe even 3 rezonings
Reviews.
of Bay Avenue uses, setbacks, we've increased height, we've done all kinds of things. And the net result of all of this effort and all of this desire is zilch. There has been nothing happening on Bay Avenue. I'm suggesting our vision for Bay Avenue might be flawed. And from my point of view, a master plan that could revisit what we want, not writing down what they hear us say what we want, but at this point, a true planning function, all right? There is, in central Jersey, North Jersey area, there's a 29-year overhang of commercial space. There's a 15-year overhang of retail space. We want retail to come into Bay Avenue. We're not getting anywhere. People are not making that decision. And I'm one of the biggest proponents of wanting something for Bay Avenue. But I can't look at M&R empty for 10 years. I can't look at the corner of Bay and Waterwich and say it's been empty for 15 years. I can't look at the place across the street that is boarded up and an eyesore for umpty years. We need to do something different, and I think that's what the master plan can be a catalyst for. I really do. And as much as I want Bay Avenue to be commercial, the reality is it might have to have residential, more residential on it. We need to get it developed. We can't keep saying, we're gonna get a store, we're gonna get a, things are happening in spite of our master plan. And because our master plan, it's because our zoning, which is a reflection of what the master plan said to do, is not giving us something that is attractive to other people. So I personally think we have to sit back and get other people's vision. Don't tell us, we keep saying we want this little fishing village. That's great if that's what you want, but the reality is it's not happening, and maybe it's time to revisit some of the stuff. And I don't have an answer, but at this point, I think we need planners. I really do.
And Mr. Mayor, you're required by law to review it every 6 years.
Okay, and I think that we did it in 2008.
That's 10.
It's 10 years
I'm
now.
sorry.
But I think we did a revise in 2008, so we're required to do a 10-year review then.
What I read today, it needs to be re-examined every 6 years, and the last one was written and adopted in 2009. So the 6 years will put you at next year anyway.
Well, nothing that started in September is going to get done this year anyway.
I just have a hard time spending all this money when my short past experience with the master plan is that it goes ignored.
Okay.
We hear what you said.
Part of that is because sitting through the master plan, unless there's involvement by others, such as yourself and things like that, you only get what you get. And
I
if
think we've
you're
done
right,
more.
and I sat there before with it, you can set it up to have it what you want. But if you
I think
have
the
people
I
recovery-
want the
involved
flooding,
in it-
you know, everybody in town wants the flooding fix. It's been in the master plan for 10 years. And it took Irene, piggyback with Sandy, to finally move. And, you know, the poor people on Bay Avenue in that section of town, they're dealing with flooding on a monthly basis at least.
Yes, we are.
And again, to have it in a master plan, yes, we're gonna do something about it, and nothing was done, not a check valve replaced, you know.
That's not true. There was a lot of things that were okay, never a massive plan as now, but there was a lot of things.
And
The
a
last
lot of
major
things go
improvement
by.
was the bulkhead on Orange Place.
Which
And that
rusted
was a
out,
fist
and
fight
it's
to get
holes,
done.
and, nah, that's an eyesore.
That was good.
Okay. Anything else?
Fist fight to get that done.
No, I think that's it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Carolyn, 12 Miller Street.
Carolyn Brion, 12 Miller Street. Two little things. As it's getting warmer now, the trash cans, I would like them to be returned to Miller Beach, as now there's little piles of trash that we
That's a
have
good
to
point, yeah.
pick
It's gonna
up
come
and
fast, too.
put in our own trash cans, because people come to visit and then leave their debris all over the beach.
We used to have 2 down there last summer, correct?
Actually, they were there all winter. They were just removed 3 weeks ago.
But there was 2, correct?
That is correct. One recycling and the other regular
Get
trash.
2 back down there, Tim? And obviously we'll revisit the, one on Shore Drive, Snug Harbor also.
The other question I had was about the electricity. Yesterday afternoon, last night, and then again this afternoon, power outs. I just want to know if JCP&L was in touch with you guys. Is this the new normal? Do we all just go solar? I don't
I don't know how true it was, but I heard there was a fire at a substation. And
Did you have it
they
in,
were-
I didn't have it in mind.
We didn't have any correspondence. There again, with 3 different grids, I know other towns were impacted. Like you said, finally, South Bay probably wasn't hit by one. They get that
South
off
Bay
the
was
grid.
hit.
and all
No, they
those-
were hit last night.
Oh, you're down in Snug. All right, I'm sorry.
But we got hit.
Did you
South
get
Bay
it
was
on
hit,
South
yeah.
Bay?
South Bay was hit.
So
What I'm
where?
saying is that this was yesterday
We didn't get any
afternoon,
notification.
last night, and then again this afternoon.
It was more.
This is an
Yeah, I
issue.
heard there was some sort of,
It went into.
Right,
That's what I heard,
it
too.
spread, but did we get any notification? No, and I don't know how long the power, I mean, in my house, it blinked like 4 times throughout the day, from what I was told. Went off for a couple seconds back on, so I don't know how long did you experience
I'm at
here?
work, I have no idea. I come home and all the
I
lights are
think it was like a
flashing,
matter
so
of like
it's,
5 minutes. It
Yeah.
wasn't much.
But
It was
no,
enough
we
to be
didn't-
annoying, enough to reset
To
everything.
reset all your stuff, right.
But it happened repeatedly over
Right.
the last couple of days,
Last
more
few
days.
days.
so I just didn't want to know, I just wanted to know if they had been in touch with,
I didn't
as
see
any
anything
reason why
personally.
this is going on, or
No,
just,
they didn't formally touch base with us, although anybody at any time can go on the JCP&L website.
no, there was
and-
nothing there, that's
There
why I
was
was
nothing
asking.
there? No?
But there's a toll-free number that you can call, no offense, but anyone who wants to follow up with that can certainly do so.
Last time we had
We'll
one
follow up
one
with
night,
them as well.
we called, last time it was like 2 in the morning, and I have small kids, so I was up one night, and I called, just a regular 800 number, and there was an accident on 36 near
Mhm.
Atlantic, and it put South Bay out. The other end of town was on,
Right,
but you go past everything on and then put South Bay out, so like this is, depending on
You
the
get
grid.
fed from a,
Yeah. But I didn't get any.
but we'll
notice,
follow
I'm
up
sorry.
with them as well.
thank you,
But
appreciate
we're
it.
gonna put the garbage cans back as quickly as we
Thanks.
can, right? No problem. Arnie Feud?
Arnie Feud, 50 Valley Street. I was wondering, with the master plan, do they put it out to who's been doing it in the past, or does it go out to all different planners in the region?
When we do it as a planning board?
Yeah.
Typically-
No, the master plan.
Yeah, that's who does it, the planning board. Typically it's
Planning
somebody.
board does the master plan?
Yes, so the engineer of the planning board has a planner typically that does it. Now, in this case, we're gonna be involving all these other organizations and bring in their feedback for all the studies being done.
Then what costs $100,000 to do? the
Their
master-
services, over and above the regular services. It's engineering, it's planning, what else goes into it?
That's pretty much it. It's a long, drawn out process. What the last one took, what, a year and a half?
The review or revised one, I believe, was about 18 months, if I remember correctly, maybe 20.
Now, can you explain that to me again? It's the people that are on the planning board, they do the planning of the master plan?
No, the planner, they give feedback to the planner, who is typically an agent of the borough engineer. And then they have to engineer and do the planning to make sure the uses are correct and the terminology is correct, of what they get feedback from the planning board. Now, that system tends to evolve, or that process tends to evolve as different feedback comes in.
Okay, so does the borough engineering firm keep it in-house deal, or do they put it out to bid?
Marty usually does it, correct?
Yeah, Marty usually does it.
Who
We
is their
keep it
client?
in-house. Marty's done it for a long time.
It's a fee.
Well, does
Can we
that
put
make
it out to
sense if you keep getting the same person doing it over and over?
Well, he's only putting in there.
Yeah, but
what-
it's something to do. It's not coming from our recommendations. It's coming from the people that sit at the table.
Right.
We don't come up with something out of the wind. It's okay,
He
here,
sits
do
there with the
this.
current plan, and then the people at the table give him feedback, or in this case, it's gonna be a couple of other organizations.
Public has to give input to a certain area.
Sure.
It's a long thing.
Typically, the planning board forms a subcommittee, and that subcommittee meets with the planner
Many times in between the meeting.
in between meetings. It has nothing,
Typically, it's like 3 meetings in between planning board meetings, and then they bring that data back to the planning board as a whole, and then they kind of decide what direction they wanna go.
Okay, so the planner's not telling them what to do,
We're telling the planner.
planning board is telling them what they
And then
want.
The only thing they would weigh in on is what's legal, what's not, and the usage and things like that, so it's spelled out after you decide as a board what you want.
Yeah, is there any other way that the board can, and I guess from my standpoint, or professionally, sometimes you can, if you go for a new, say a new town, you have a professional planning engineering firm that looks at it totally from the outside without feedback from the inside and says, okay, this land has this clam plant, it has this quarter of a mile of waterfront, this is what would be best for this situation, instead of hearing all this stuff that we've had over and over and over for the last 3 master plans, that's all.
Can we? I'm sure we can bring in
Yeah,
any
that might be a
data
way
or
to
feedback.
look at it instead of, in other words, do it a different way instead of what was done in the past.
I think we are. We're bringing in these independent study groups as part of the whole
You mean the one from
analysis.
Rutgers and the other?
Yeah, that's
one?
why they asked to wait till September. They actually asked to August, we made it September.
Okay.
Because all these studies, they believe, will all be in by the summer, and then they can digest it and then start the formal open public process. And then there'll be a public hearing where everybody's allowed to weigh in too, probably more than once.
Okay.
Okay?
I want to.
Maureen Welsh?
I just want to follow up on the.
We'll get back at the end of this
on the
time. You had your
process.
chance. Maureen Welsh, please?
Yeah, Maureen Welch, 50 Valley Street. I have a specific question and a general question. It's more around governance. First, I want to say that the committees, I think, are a fantastic idea. I think that there are some very talented people in Highlands that want to contribute. However, if a committee is not required to give reports on a regular basis and status, I think the teeth of the committee and the effectiveness of that committee is grossly minimized. There was an agreement more than 6 months ago to reinstitute the Finance Committee, but the Finance Committee has not been reinstituted. The Substandard Housing Committee, it's been over 2 years, so I think that I would ask, I have a question and then I have a request. The question is, if somebody is leading a committee, whether it's clam plant, substandard housing, open space, is there a requirement for those team leaders to give a report? You ask the police chief to give a report. I think that people who run a committee should also be required to give a report. So my first question is, do you have a requirement to do that, and do you hold each other accountable? And then, that's the general on all committees. The other is, where are we with this agreement to reinstitute the Finance Committee that was over 6 months ago? And Mr. Pfeffer had mentioned substandard committee, or no, Tim had mentioned that the ordinance change will give substandard housing committee new teeth. So when will those 2 specific committees be reinstituted?
What's the answer to the first one?
Well, I think that this board does hold accountable, as we brought up the plan lease, right? We now said.
You brought it up, but for 6 months, nothing has
I
been done
agree,
yet.
now the mayor wants to send him a letter. Personally, I'd give it 2 weeks. If they don't meet, I'd squash it and let's start the negotiations here. That's my opinion, but that's not how we're handling it, but that's okay. I'm meeting open space on April 9th. There's not a whole lot, it's not a very active committee because there's not a ton to do. We'll go over objectives, goals. It's twice a year. I'll report on it at the next meeting.
But that's the point there. It's subject to the person who's leading the committee and that style. From what I've seen, there's no common minimum standard of requirements for all council people who run a committee to report in. How you do it is different than how Chris does it, which is different than how Tara does it, and there's no minimum agreed to standard. I think that the committees are a great idea, but in order for them to be effective, there needs to be a minimum standard that you all agree to, that you make your committee members agree to, and that you hold each other accountable. Yes, you bring it up, but it needs to go further than this. And I would like this reflected in the record because, you know, there's no point of having a committee if that committee is not required to report or even meet for over a year. I think it's just kind of silly. So I'm making a request that in your executive session next time, that you speak about minimum requirements that you can all agree to and that you adhere to them. So, but I
And to
still
be
would like an
currently
answer
up- and to
on
be currently
finance
updated.
and substandard housing as well.
And to be currently updated.
Yes.
Because you said,
Well, wait, let them answer the question. So for finance, you all agreed, great idea, let's reinstitute. That was 6 months ago, and nothing has happened. So, you know, again, getting an answer on a yes does not give some of us in the audience a lot of confidence because, you know, we thought it was a great thing that you agreed to reinstitute. You said yes, but nothing has happened since. So, and you should be, in my opinion, you should be asking that of each other. I mean, you should be accountable to us, but you should be accountable. You all made an agreement on the finance committee. You publicly said that it would be reinstituted, and it hasn't been. So not to pick on you, Chris, but this is a very important committee. It goes back to what Kim said.
Okay, I mean, first of all, it's clear, I chose not to be on the finance committee because at this point, the process didn't work for me the first time around.
Why? Because no one ever met.
Well,
I'm not putting that on you, I'm saying.
no, I think we met quite aggressively.
Okay.
And the end result is we didn't get much accomplished. I mean, Maureen put out a great, you know, we had a public presentation, and I don't know whether.
We didn't get agreement on the recommendations, though. We made recommendations, and they never went anywhere.
Right.
So what's the point of having a committee if?
So at this point, I'm not on the finance committee, so I would just want to correct what you had
Okay,
started to say.
who is leading the finance committee?
Rebecca and I.
Okay, then, 6 months ago, an agreement was made to reinstitute the finance committee. What plans have been made, or what action are you taking to fulfill that obligation and commitment you made publicly over 6 months ago?
Right now, none. I've been busy doing many other things related to Sandy.
I can't imagine anything that's that much more important than the fiduciary responsibilities and the ability to leverage very talented people in Highlands around these very important issues. I would respectfully request that we're all busy,
Okay.
but that this be made a priority.
Okay. Do noted. Barbara Iannucci?
Wow. I don't even know what to say.
Okay.
Everyone here has said so much. I see a lot of sides. I have to just back up and reiterate and restate everything Maureen just said. I know you have a lot of involved residents here. There are a lot of, different parties and groups that might be contentious, but in the bottom line, we all are for Highlands. So I would hate to make it seem like this is just keep them busy, keep them unfocused, make them think they're important on a committee to be able to get a future going for Highlands when all is said and done. It doesn't matter what we're doing because the governing body's not even reading reports. I do know on the environmental committee, every time I've met, Steve or Peter have submitted minutes to Carolyn Cummins. So I know there is some type of feedback going, at least with the committee I'm involved with. But I do want to bring up something with this master plan. I did read over our old master plan.
Or
I
current
know-
one?
The current one, yes. And I see most of it's based on 2000 census data. You mentioned you have a lot of independent groups doing studies. Are they actually doing the demographics and actually getting the population that now populates Highlands after Sandy? Do we actually know the number of households that are for sale, that are for foreclosure, that are actually inhabited or not inhabited? I just feel you can't even begin a master plan without that data. We have the 2010 census, which quite honestly was blown out of the water by Sandy. So, like, how do you proceed without just dropping $100 grand or $80 grand to do it by the book and have an engineer firm make sure the language is correct? You mentioned come to you if there is a grant given the Sandy crisis for municipalities to revise and address their master plan that is now obsolete, either under the Christie plan, the DCA, I don't care where you pull it, Millennium could find that. I'd like you to start there, if that's a...
We are seeking those options, but again, the comments prior was no one wants to go with the new master plan. So the financing of it wasn't really discussed, but we are seeking any options. Every time we talk about spending money, I guarantee you we're seeking alternatives and other sources of revenue to hopefully offset that. But if we get a $50,000 grant, does that make you say yay or nay? Because now it's only going to cost us $50,000. That's not really
no,
the point, I think. I think the point is, do we want to do the master plan?
Well, I think the responsible thing to do is first define and find out what exists in Highlands now after Sandy.
Sorry, 1 minute. Does anybody here have any sugar? Tara needs sugar. She has low blood sugar. Any candy? Steve, you got candy? Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
Well, try.
Sugar in it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Can you remind, just in case, Ed? You want to-
What is that?
He has something in the car.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Oh, that's
Pick up,
by the
please.
way. You okay?
Mr. Francie would like to respond to you if you don't mind.
From
You're
what
done.
I said already, yes.
The Rutgers group in particular is, first of all, using 2010 data. It's creating GIS layers with its area of study, because it's only 3 months, is studying from Veterans Park to Valley Ave, from the water to Shore Drive. They've created 6 classes of properties, from empty to abandoned to bank-owned to, all of these kinds of criteria, which is what you're talking about, all right? And they're looking at Bay Avenue as and the residents. And at this point, while I participated in class, I'm offering no guidance. This is not me. I'm only facilitating them getting the information. So I think it's going to be we took Google Street View and walked every house in the area and looked at it. Turned around and looked at the house. Is it empty? Is it abandoned, etc.? Did every street, every house.
When did you do that?
Last week.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Recent.
Yeah.
And it took 4 hours, and there were 15 students around the screen, looking for information, exactly what you're talking about.
Well, you have to know what exists before you can envision. And if you're basing it on the census, it's going to be false, and we're wasting our money.
Well, the census data is just too
removed from what's happened in the last 2 years.
It's too broad. There are only 2 blocks that deal with, census is block data, and it's only 2 blocks, and it was too broad. It captured the uplands and the downlands areas. So I think, the Rutgers study is going to be pretty aggressive.
Adding the long-term recovery study and all the things that came out of that. There's a lot of different things
No,
that can
that's
be.
what I'd say. There's a lot of collaboration going on. I just
And at some point, I believe on the subcommittee, we're going to have people who were involved in these other things, not sitting on the planning board, to weigh in on what they know better than we do, or they do, because they sat on all those committees and subcommittees.
I think the master plan's gonna pull it all
I,
together.
that's the hope,
That's,
that's the intent,
that's the
obviously.
overall intent, is to take all this and put it all
Ricky's comment is absolutely spot on. He sat through these meetings, and at this point, from John Q. Public, besides me, there might have been nobody else.
Nobody.
You know, so at this point, and they drag on, and they drag on, but you have to go through the process. And so to the degree that you say you want something, there is gonna be a time where you have to do it. And that's really where we're at. We're gonna go through it one more time, and
Okay.
it would be a shame if there's only thing out there is crickets. That's what happened the last time.
Well, as it went on a year and a half, Chris is right, it was less and less and less, and
Yes, and I think, since it's something facing many of,
I'm sorry?
I think since this is facing many municipalities, having, either they're going to either adopt their old master plan and say, let's stick with what we have, or they're going to say this is an opportunity to rethink the wheel, so to speak. They still are going to need financial help. That's why I was
No
asking
doubt.
Jim to try to find some kind of possible grant that may not be written this month, but in 6 months when everybody's going to be demanding it, the government might help us out here.
And I think to your point, a lot of the county studies are gonna come back, because they're already talking about the impact of the Bay Shore area from Sandy and who's left.
Oh, yeah,
And I think a lot of that'll be out by the summer,
good.
my opinion, because that's usually what it takes, and they started it in the fall. Generally, it's a 10-month scenario.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it's probably easier now because there's less to count. I hate to say that, but it's
Yes.
just true.
Yeah.
And I think that you're gonna have another, hopefully 6 months into cycles of what's happening with each individual
Yes.
person and house also. Because I think there's a wave of people coming back in the spring too, from what I've seen, and a lot of things happening in our offices
Yeah.
downtown.
Well, and they're getting funding to rebuild.
Right, that
so-
second wave of funding's coming out and all that stuff, absolutely.
Okay, so that's all, and the other comment, if I can say another comment based on what I heard at the meeting, the proposal for the vet park, I would much rather see that funding go into our town hall or some other source that,
To the scope you're talking about, I agree, we have to do something to secure it. We don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, though, obviously.
Now, I know from when we were at the building, the playground for
Mhm.
Daniel, if there was 2x4s there and the wood there, the volunteers would have put that
Kept going.
boardwalk back.
I agree.
And it would have made it viable enough because, like Chris mentioned, you have this ACE plan coming down, you have a new master plan coming down. Don't spend a lot that you're gonna just
I agree,
tear
because
up.
it could get ripped up in X amount of time.
Yeah, so that's all I want to say, and I'm done.
No problem.
Just one thing you touched on, I understand that the priority of this council at this point is really the same as the 12 long-term FEMA priorities. And number one is flooding, and number two is the I&I, it's the infrastructure. Because we can't develop anything until we reduce the amount of flow we're sending to the sewer. I mean,
And you're not
people,
gonna have a lot of shareholders.
people
on
don't
the
really understand that, all right?
Well, I understand.
But it, you know, we're up against a line in the sand
Mhm.
that prior to Sandy was a little fuzzy.
Correct,
Post-
or Irene even.
Post Sandy, it is not fuzzy anymore. So we have to get on a grant for getting this I&I reduced. Right now, we're 500,000 gallons a day. 50% of it is fresh water or salt water.
A lot of it is, no doubt about it.
And that is unconscionable. Forget being expensive. The reality is, we're not gonna be able to do any significant development, any additional growth in dwelling units in town.
Even putting the old ones back.
Also, you have to, right now, no one will get their equity back. There is no equity
And the
in
problem
any
is,
existing structure.
you're right.
So without this, you're just telling people, it would be wiser to walk away and quit while you're ahead and cut the
I would never
fees
say
and
those
pay.
words, Barbara.
But
I
you're
know,
right,
but
without saying them,
doing
you
the
are.
infrastructure. So
The other
I
thing is,
understand it.
there should have been a significant drop in what we're pumping to Atlantic Islands after Sandy because of so many less people. But there wasn't because there's so much more damage in the I&I. So that's, you can't even, you would think that would have went down thousands of gallons, didn't happen.
No, that has to be addressed immediately.
No doubt about it, because that's just money going, you're literally throwing down the toilet, if you
Yes.
will.
And like Chris said, our priorities are not gonna change because we're doing the master plan. Our priorities are gonna remain the same in conjunction with
Right, go
moving
hand in hand.
forward. And really, we need to look at it because Bay Avenue is very stagnant, and maybe a business district isn't the whole mile long. Maybe
Right.
it's parcels, maybe this is one hot end of town, this is another hot end of town. Maybe it's not the whole thing, because we're not really laid out in the best, and not that that's our fault, I mean, these houses were here long before most of us were around. We don't have that thriving business district, we have parcels, so we need to,
And you don't have clearly enough
See how
people to
we-
keep it busy in
yeah.
the winter.
No.
And
And
we
we
have to
did
see how
deny a
we
lot of
grow.
mercantile licenses, so that nips it in the bud before you even start. So
Well,
there's a lot of things going on.
some things were denied for good reasons. I don't want to
Yeah.
get into specific cases now,
Okay.
which we shouldn't. Doug Carr?
I'll take mine offline when we do it. It was about our case with the ordinances, and he
Okay.
corrected me, I'll take it offline, I think.
So you talked to him privately, or you?
Yeah, I'll talk to him
Okay.
privately, because it's just.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I can't read the name, and I know it's Kelly at 17 Bay Street.
Melissa.
Melissa, I'm sorry, it just says M, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
A couple of things. On the master plan, not that it never needs to be done, but I think it's just a matter of, we have so much money and everything that needs to be done, I think it's fiscally irresponsible to spend the $80,000 to redo it this year.
Okay.
And that's my opinion, I want it on record. Secondly, if it is moving forward, the other thing that's bothersome for me is hearing that, well, you have to show up for the planning board meetings. However, the meeting about the master plan at the last planning board meeting, the agenda's still not on the website as of today. So if you're not promoting what the planning board is doing, you're just putting the meetings out there, it makes no difference. How are people supposed to know? And according to the Sunshine Law, and I'll direct this to the attorney, it says not only putting the schedule out there, but putting a viable agenda up 48 hours before the meeting.
Okay,
So
that's not
how-
happening, we gotta fix that, right?
Well, it says the agenda to the extent no.
Okay.
But that doesn't have to be.
Said no.
How about we?
That's what the law says. It doesn't say viable, it says to the
It's that
extent
means there
no.
has to be some type of.
And you don't have to
agenda
put the
48 hours
agenda,
before.
if it's a regularly scheduled meeting, you do not have to put the agenda up.
Could
But
we
I
do it
believe the
anyway?
agendas are put up in Borough Hall when they're available.
Okay, and do we normally have them available
After the
by?
meeting?
No.
No.
Hang on one second. Do we normally have them available by the Friday before the meeting? Because that's when I get it in the mail.
That's a question for Carolyn, I would
Okay,
assume
she's
yes.
not
I don't know, I know that's when I get
Debbie, is
mine
it
for this
normally
meeting,
done?
but I don't know.
Then can we post it on Friday, what the agenda is, if we're allowed to legally without, maybe, we don't have to put people's names if we can, or we shouldn't. But if there's an overall theme that is not related to one property owner, but more towards the whole town, can we post them by Friday? Because I get them by Saturday, so I assume they're ready Friday.
They are, they're always mailed out.
So we could do zoning and planning moving forward? The other thing is too, I can promise you, we've always done this, and I've said it since I've been mayor, we're gonna have many open meetings. There's not gonna be a vote on the corner of Waterwich and Bay at 3 in the afternoon. We'll have many open meetings when all this data comes back, probably before the planning board starts their process. I would anticipate having all the data by August. We could have a town hall type meeting just for the people who brought back the data in September before the planning board meeting.
There's no use in having those open meetings if they really don't mean anything, so the decisions are being made outside.
So if we don't do it,
of
it's no good. If we do it, it's no good.
that. If you actually.
You're asking
take
to be
into
open and what's happening, that's the only way to do it. Because a lot of people can't make a meeting on a Thursday night at 7:30 in this room. People have told me that.
Then you know what, stream it, just like we're doing today.
I don't have any issue with that. You want to volunteer to do that? I have no money in the budget.
I haven't charged you anything for the past year.
That's why I'm asking you to do it more. Because your price is right.
Let Carolyn deduct it from her taxes.
Oh, don't start making those deals. So would you mind streaming the videos that the meetings that we have?
What John Snyder did.
I don't care who does it. I have no voice in it.
I don't even know what days.
There's some
which ones?
limitations
I was
to
gonna
our
say.
life too.
I understand. I'm just asking. If you can, I'll ask, all due respect, I'll ask another guy.
Thursday?
I believe. First and second Thursday of each month are those meetings, correct?
One is zoning, one is planning.
Yes.
First
But
and
it
Zoning's first, planning's second.
could be caretaker,
7:30.
it doesn't have to be you.
Doesn't have
No,
to be
no,
all
I know.
you. We can ask you what you can do and ask another person who does
Sure.
it what they can do. Doesn't matter to me. You can make everyone on it.
Then the other thing that kind of concerns me, something that Chris brought up about the sewer, the INI well, actually, the Rutgers, there's a couple different things. The Rutgers thing, why would they use Google Maps to do a door-by-door thing? With Google Maps, that was actually done last summer, and there's so much change that happened within the town from last June till a week ago.
Is that when they walked?
Well, they didn't use the image that was seen on Google Maps. They walked down the street, stopped in front of a house. I presented the information, because I know most of this area, like the back of my hand at this point. All right, so I can tell any house standing in front of it, some history about it for the last 6 months. So at this point, that's the information that got recorded as to its status.
And what's with the Valley to Veterans Park? And I'm kind of asking that because I heard something, an inkling about Valley to Vets, and there was some type of plan, and it wasn't had anything to do with Rutgers. So now that Rutgers is actually looking at that plot of land, how come they would look at that plot of land and not necessarily the whole town below?
All right, let's start back. Valley to Vets arose out of meetings that started in springtime. Looking for a Bay Avenue centric.
A limited area.
Huh?
A limited
A limited area. A Bay Avenue centric redevelopment plan, or at least a proposal that could lead to a redevelopment, since the Bay Avenue from Valley to Vets is about 75–80% empty store. That's the reality, all right? So that's the area that we asked a planner to take a look at. Nothing happened with that concept. There were developers that came in and.
It seemed like every weekend, someone was trying to meet with me,
But
you,
and it ended up nothing much happening. Seabright also did a studio for Seabright. Rutgers did a studio for Seabright. I participated in that. They were able to get grants to do a studio for Highlands. We ended up taking that Valley to Vets, that was the original scope, expanded it to the water and to Shore Drive, so it's more than just Bay Avenue commercial area. And that's a big enough piece, covers a lot of the, it covers all of the typical problems that Lower Highlands is experiencing.
And what is prohibited in today's master plan that would prevent any type of development in that section?
I didn't understand that, Melissa.
What is prohibited in today's master plan that would prohibit that type of development?
What type of development?
In your Valley to Vets?
Well, they didn't
We don't know what
present anything yet.
They
They're
haven't
coming
told
back.
us what they're thinking about yet.
What works best is their opinion, I guess.
The reality is, on Bay Avenue, from Valley to Vets, it's vacant.
I understand that.
It's vacant. All right, so the current master plan, which is reflected in the zoning for that area, is not working. We have, is that the B1 zone? I believe that's the B1, or is that the B2? It's the B2 zone. So we have all kinds of uses. We've raised the height from 36 to 44 feet, and then with raising the, and now they can go higher because of the floodplain. We had limited development to 50%, we wanted commercial, so it was 50% residential was the max allowed. We've changed that to where 2/3 residential would be allowed. Again.
And Rutgers may come back and give you another idea. And it's
Correct.
just idea, it's nothing we have to do.
But there's nothing happening, that's why they're looking at it.
And I understand that there's nothing that has happened, but what specifically is your opinion as to what's in the master plan today that's prohibiting the movement?
I don't think it's just a master
For
plan,
me,
in my opinion.
what's missing is a vision that would work. The vision that the master
Very
plan,
subjective, so what specifically, what's gonna work? So you should be able to go, well, within the master plan today, it says X, Y, and Z, and that's prohibitive into
okay,
why are
why
you-
is M&R empty, Melissa, for 15 years?
Next to American Legion.
next to American Legion, empty,
Across from the garden.
empty. There hasn't, I'm sorry?
That's a big part of it, I agree with you on that.
It may be just the flooding, Tricia, but we can't act fast enough on the flooding. We're doing that.
So I'm asking you, what's your opinion that's in the master plan today that's prohibiting that particular building from being habitable?
The building and the lot, basically.
Well, I personally, I think at this point, I'm sorry, Johnny.
The commercial aspect, Chris, we sat, me and Frank did it in 2009. It's
I feel like we sat on 5 of them.
Yeah, and I think that's the keep up.
Let's be honest, too, we had 3 years off the books with the two hurricanes. I mean,
Right.
let's call it what it is.
The-
I mean, we were,
The amount of retail space and commercial space that's available outside of Highlands that is vacant. They say it's 29 years in commercial, 15 years in retail. This is empty space, already built, can't get occupied, can't get filled.
So you're saying that
This is surplus, they call it an overhang.
So
I'm
you're
sorry?
saying that what's problematic in the master plan today is that it allows for too much commercialization on Bay Avenue and it should be switched to residential?
Melissa, I'm trying to be very careful not to say what they should be saying. Let a planner come back with
or multiple.
yeah. I'm sorry, Johnny.
Have no interest in doing a commercial.
Yeah, and you know, everybody needs to understand, we have not turned down any application for anything on Bay Avenue. Reality, anybody who's come to us and would ask for variance, would ask for some relief, we would bend over backwards, ask for abatement. We did the abatement ordinance. We would let almost anything within the zoning happen, all right, except pure residential. That's the only thing, personally, I would say no to. But I think.
But maybe Rutgers and 3 other planners come back and say, this is what you gotta do percentage.
Correct, and we have to listen, Melissa. We have to listen, that's what this is all about. What are you laughing at, Donica?
Okay.
No, honestly.
No, I'm not laughing at you, sir.
No, well.
No. You said almost anything would go in, but you can't have a tattoo shop or a pool hall.
Because there's an ordinance
Because
against it.
there's, there are businesses that are limited in this town.
Of course, and
But if we have
As are
40% of the people
arcades.
are not here, who's going to those businesses if you had 10 that you wanted?
Yeah, but
People
no
moving
business
back
is
every
better
day.
than undesirable business.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm not so sure I agree with that, Rick.
It
I
depends on what
understand.
they are. What we're trying to do.
I don't agree with you.
But let's be honest, you're gonna get 10 opinions on 10 different, on the same thing. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, have a good night, everybody. Wow.